According to Thales, that the ultimate essence, the ultimate element, the ultimate reality from which everything comes in the universe is water. He believed that the life he discovered around him seems to require water. For a seed to grow, it must become wet. For the human beings, animals, flowers, grass to grow and to continue to live require a constant replenishing with water. Water seems to be necessary to life. He said that the water is the basic substances that creates life itself. For Thales, the answer for all the mysteries of one, many could found in one alternate reality called water. Heraclitus described the universe as fire as a source of metaphorical but sort of hot like flame. He taught that everything is in constant flux, ever changing as everything is in a state of constant movement, as such was the instinct of the change. Heraclitus famously declared that you cannot step in the same river twice. Particularly, this quote means that though a river appears to be stable, its underlying matter is in fact constantly changing. For Heraclitus, a fire is the finest element which exists in equal balance with elements like water and earth. According to Democritus, the world is made of matter. If we cut the matter into very small pieces, there will be a point where the matter will be undividable or ungettable. That point is called as the atomist. So the world is made up of matter, consists of tiny and cuttable or undivisible objects known as atoms. Anaximander has another idea. He says that the origin of all things is aperon, which translates as the boundless or without limits. He means that the aperon is a material, a kind of undefined mass which is boundless and without limits in space and time. Aperon has no beginning in time, instead it is eternal. In 1990, one astronomer named Carl Sagan requested a photo of the Earth by the Voyager 1 spacecraft at the distance of 3.7 billion miles away. The Earth can be seen as a mere blue dot. Our Earth is a very small stage in a vast of cosmic arena. Carl Sagan wrote a passage to remind us how tiny we individual in this beautiful world. The Earth is where we can make our stand.
Lesson 2. The universe in your hands. The universe always finds a way to fascinate us, although the unknown about it is still much overwhelming. Saint Thomas Aquinas, a philosopher from the medieval period, called God as the summum bonum. This translates to the highest God. Although Aquinas wasn't the first philosopher who coined the term, his view of God as the highest good is evident in his writings. In the study of ethics, the summum bonum is seen as the end goal of life, that people go on with their lives in search of it. Some define it as happiness or virtues, but in the Christian perspective of Saint Thomas, it was God. He looked at life as a journey given by God, and that our goal in every action we perform should be about the fulfillment of God's will. The Christian perspective could also be found in the writings of Saint Augustine of Hippo. Augustine also saw that union with God is the object of life. Augustine's main point was on his advocate of many virtues that would purify one's soul in order to be worthy of a union with God. The Judeo-Christian perspective of the theologians rests on the idea that man would be rewarded by God in heaven if he lives his life in the mortal world in accordance to his will. Behind this perspective, we can conclude that your care for nature and God's creation would please Him. Hence, you would be rewarded in the afterlife.
Now let us look at the ethical school of thought, which is the utilitarianism. Utilitarianism states that an action is considered right and good if one can get a use or a utility of it. This is a form of consequentialism, which is a view that examines the consequence of an action. The father of modern utilitarianism, which is Jeremy Bentham, thought that man is governed either by pleasure or pain. For him, the goal of life is to maximize the pleasure and minimize the pain. For example, if one is facing a certain moral dilemma, he or she should look at the consequence. If that consequence brings pleasure, then he or she should act on it, and if it doesn't, then he or she should not do it. Now let us look at the Chinese philosophical teaching of Confucius. The wise teacher taught of one of the major ethical guidelines that is revered until today, which is the Golden Rule. The Golden Rule generally reminds us to take action only on things we also want to be done to ourselves. But Confucianism starts it with the opposing action. What you do not want to be done to you, don't do unto others. In conclusion, we should take care of the environment so it would take care of us as well. A mind and action for ecological stability results to less pollution, less flooding, or none at all, or a stop on global warming and other great effects of a sustainable environment. According to some writers, the desire for progress, development, and industrialization has made man a destroyer of his environment. The desire for greater wealth has made us blind to the true wealth nature provides us. This then prompts us to think of ways, no matter how little, to save our world. And these philosophies, the Judeo-Christian perspective, utilitarianism, and Confucianism shows us that the good and better world is in our hands.
Lesson 3: The universe in our hands. Vegetarianism is defined as the practice of non-consumption of meat and their products that come from animals like milk or eggs. In environmental ethics, they are questioning the practice of human beings in the consumption of non-human animals. Animals are also sentient beings. It means that they can sense and feel. They can also experience pain and pleasure. However, many animals around the world are being slaughtered for food. Some of them are abused and needs rescuing. Example of this kind of treatment is Yulin Dog Meat Festival in China every year. Peter Singer, a philosopher and ethicist, argues strongly that it seems non-human animals are facing discrimination equitable to sexism or racism among human beings. He called this as speciesism. Accordingly, this suggests that when humans make decisions that would affect the environment, sentient beings ought to be put into consideration. According to Singer, in a 2008 documentary called Examined Life, he questioned the morality of a highly capitalistic society. For him, if it is within our capability to alleviate the pain of another, without causing another form of pain to anyone else or to ourselves, then we have a moral obligation to alleviate the pain.
Singer approach may be utilitarian in nature as it appeals to a consequence brought to human, to animals, and to the world itself. However, this is also a deontological approach in ethics. This approach resides on the intrinsic value of an action instead of consequence. Like caring for the environment is not because it would result a better life for us, but because caring for the environment is right thing to do by itself. There is an intrinsic value to caring for the environment. Hence, doing what is right does not stop when there are no benefits anymore. It doesn't stop because it's not stopping from being right by itself. These ideas restricts our own ideologies as well and makes us think twice of the decisions that we will carry out to the environment. It makes us more careful and prudent of the choice we make towards the world we live in. We could even practice certain ideology that is biased on careful examination on what is good for us and the world itself. As we know, the resources that come from nature is not unlimited and is declining in a month fast as the population of human beings continue to increase. As rational, conscious creature is put in a position of responsibility. Thus we ought to respond as a whole to the challenge that the environment is facing this day. The challenge of climate change, ecological dilapidation, pollution, endangerment, and extinction of species, and etc. need a collective constructive response from human beings, which we could all contribute to in terms of policies, activism, and progressive projects, and so on. This is because the universe, the world, is in all of our hands.
Our positions and what we can do as individuals were discussed in the previous lesson. Man, on the other hand, can accomplish so much more when working together. Humans have had a significant impact on the world as a whole, but in this lesson, we will tackle more serious issues about the effects of our existence in this planet for the purpose of contemplation and understanding of what can we all do better.